All right, welcome to another episode of Crossing Home Plate. Today, I have with me again the big man, Chris Davis, back in the house here, and then we're happy to have Shawn Tolleson with us today. Welcome, Shawn.
Thanks.
9 years in the pros, 5.5 years between LA and the Rangers, right? Breakout season in 2015. What led the majors, all the majors and saves the back half of that year, right? And then I think one of the other things that was interesting there was the Rangers actually honored you afterwards for your contribution to youth baseball. That was pretty cool. So as Chris and I were starting to put together College Baseball Fellowship, one of the cool things that kind of happened was, as I was getting to know people in the baseball community and stuff, your name kept coming up. Hey, you got to talk to Shawn. You got to go find Shawn. And one of them was Byron, your old chaplain at Baylor, and hey, go seek out Shawn. So, man, we're glad to have you here. Glad to have you as part of College Baseball Fellowship, and welcome.
I appreciate it. It's an easy yes.
Yeah.
So
no, that's awesome.
Some things you pray about, and some things you just don't.
No need. Yes. No need. It was the right thing to do. Yeah. No, that's great. So, real quick, family. What's So
married. It'll be our 15th anniversary coming up this winter. So my wife and I met in middle school, and her dad wouldn't let her go on a date with me till she turned 16, which I think is a great rule.
Yeah, it's our rule.
So when she was 16, we went on a date, and we've been together ever since. We've got 3 kids. So I've got 2 boys that are 10 and 8, and I've got a daughter who's 5. And so just having a blast, just raising them and being a dad. That's probably my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. No, that's great. And then, so we'll go through that in a little bit, kind of talk more about what you're doing now with the training facility and everything around that. But, so give us a little bit about just kind of your story. How'd you grow up? What'd that look like? And, we'll kind of pause at high school there. And
yeah. So, I grew up here in Texas in the Dallas area, specifically in a little town called Fairview, which is a little town sandwiched in between Allen and McKinney. All my ties are really to Allen. So, but suburban Dallas kid. My dad was a veterinarian. Financially we were well off. We were comfortable. Older brother, older sister. Faith was always a big deal in our family. And so it was a part of our family routine. So we went to church on Sunday morning. We went to church on Sunday night. We went to church on Wednesday night. That kind of cadence and that rhythm was just a theme in our house. And faith was something that we talked about. We prayed together as a family. And so I definitely was I was Bible taught, right? So I was Bible taught. A little bit, I was listening to the previous podcast with Cody, and our stories align a little bit. I was a rule follower.
Yeah.
Everybody said, like, man, he's such a great kid, right? And they said it because you tell me something to do or you tell me something not to do, I'm going to do it. So I was definitely a rule follower, and I think with that just kind of came this idea of, like, if I do the right thing, then I'm good to go. Right. And it really took me, it took me a while, someone growing up in the church, having as much like biblical knowledge as I had, but I don't know that I knew the Bible as like one redemption story, right? I didn't ever look at the Bible as just like one story that all pointed to Jesus. And so I decided to commit my life to Christ when I was 15.
Okay. Awesome.
In some ways, I knew it was the most important decision I was ever going to make, and I knew I was going to make it, but it's like I kind of felt like I had to have everything right, understand everything, and I really couldn't fully make that decision, I think, until I really understood that, like, what sin was, and that I actually was a sinner. Because, like, going through as a kid, following all the rules, doing all the right things, and now I'm a teenager, and it's like, oh, Like I
figured out what sin was as
you
a,
fig you
Yeah.
fig you
as a
figure out
teenager.
you figure out what it is. And then I realized that I was a sinner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, but that's the kind of story. It was a good childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
So baseball was kind of there from T-ball on up, and
Always played,
Yeah.
and always pitched. I played other positions and I wasn't terrible at them, but I was definitely always just kind of shined as a pitcher. Kind of probably my freshman year in high school, sort of realized like, man, I probably am pretty good at this. And so it's sort of started looking at baseball a little bit more seriously than I even had before. Played every sport growing up,
yeah.
which I think all kids should do. Like, I played everything, loved everything, never did two sports at once. And so I'm sure we can talk more about that kind of as the podcast goes on. But
Fascinating concept.
Yeah. No, and that's great. So as a freshman, you were playing varsity. You were
playing varsity and getting to pitch,
Yeah.
all the time as a freshman. And, really like in high school, was super successful. I had a
Yeah.
great freshman year, a really outstanding sophomore year, junior season. I think I was all state, first team all state those seasons. Really kind of solidified myself as like a potential pretty high draft pick. My senior year of high school, pitched for Team USA that summer going into my senior year and did really, really well. A lot of scouts saw me throw. I was throwing harder than I ever did in the big leagues. And so going into that senior season, I'm kind of thinking like, man, maybe I won't go to college. Maybe I'll get picked out of high school. And first game of the season, my senior year, we were playing. It was in a first game of the season. We're playing in a tournament, and it was Allen versus the Woodlands. Woodlands was really good. We were really good. So it was a big deal. Kyle Drabeck was pitching for the Woodlands.
Oh, yeah.
And tons of scouts. He was a huge touted prospect, and so every team was there watching. And we go through 3 innings, and it's like we're through 3 innings, and each one of us had struck out 9 guys, and everybody's just dealing. And I get to the first hitter in the 4th inning, and I just going all heaters, all heaters through the first 3 innings. His first slider I threw all game, and I just kind of got around it and felt a pop in my elbow, and knew exactly kind of what happened, because I had heard horror stories about it. And because all the scouts were there, I actually after I felt the pop in my elbow, I actually grabbed my ankle and limped off the field, thinking well, if my elbow's not messed up, at least I'm not putting any red flags out there to the scouts.
Oh, wow.
So grab my ankle and I limp off the field, come out of the game. But in the back of my head, I knew what had happened. So that's kind of, I kind of sat out the rest of my senior year, sat out my entire freshman year at Baylor.
Yeah.
And so really it almost was 2 years before I picked up a ball and pitched again.
Wow. So what was the mental, emotional, what was that like at that? I mean, you had that moment, but the moments after, the days after, what'd you go through?
Man, it's funny. My mental state with the game of baseball was pretty darn good through high school and college. Because at that point, it really was just, I was doing it because it was fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't my job yet.
Okay.
Right. I didn't have a family I was trying to support with it.
Yeah.
And so as devastating as that was, my dream was always to pitch in the big leagues, and to be a first or second grounder would have been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And as devastating as it was, I think I felt sad because I was missing my senior year. I think I was just
that's tough.
I was like, man, I really wanted to pitch this season.
Yeah.
So I think that's what made it hard. Was just that. Was just it's kind of I just wanted to pitch and I couldn't.
No, that's probably a much healthier place, right?
And I wish I could have carried that frame of mind my entire career. And I think if any of us could, I'm sure you can relate, Chris.
Yeah.
Just it changes. The game does change the higher you go up. the game changes.
Yeah.
And I went up to Baylor, and I pitched 3 seasons there and did okay. Like,
Yeah.
I had flashes of kind of who I was previously, but like, if you just summarize like my collegiate career, it was like fairly mediocre.
Yeah.
But even that didn't seem to like,
Sour you.
it didn't sour me.
Did you feel like it took you a little bit longer to recover from Tommy John? I mean, do you think, I know a bunch of guys that have had it, and I actually had a roommate in Arizona when I was in the minor leagues, spent an off season there with him and got to see the rehab, which is grueling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, watching guys get stretched back out and get
Yeah.
scraped and all kinds of, I'm not going to go into the details anymore,
Yeah.
but I remember he was a high school kid who was selected a round after me, I believe. And I've talked to him. I'd ask him questions about, how do you feel? What is it? Does it feel better? Does it feel different? And he's like, it just depends on the day. He's like, some days I feel great. Some days it's going to be a challenge. One of the things that he talked about that I thought was interesting was that he said right before he blew out, he was throwing harder than he ever had.
It's kind of the same thing with me.
So do you think it took you a couple of years to get your feel back, to get, did you feel like you were the same guy? Do you feel like did you have to adjust your game a little bit?
Yeah, I was not the same guy.
Okay.
Yeah, it took more than 2 years for me. It took me 2 years just to pitch again.
Yeah.
And it took me probably another 3 years to actually figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's longer than what would probably be typical. I think it just kind of goes to show you, I'm probably not like, I wasn't like a big feel pitcher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I kind of had to learn how to be, but my arm slot changed, my mechanics changed some. So it was an adjustment, and the rehab was pretty tough.
Yeah.
It was pretty tough to go through, and especially like going through it and putting in all that time and then still experiencing pain and setbacks.
Yeah.
And eventually I actually remember having this conversation with my dad. My dad is like, hey, and no, it still hurts. Like, do you think it's just pain? Or do you think it's hurt?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think it's just pain. And he was like, what if you just threw?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, pain sometimes is just one of those things you kind of get through. And at that point in my life, like, I'd never played baseball with pain.
Yeah.
Like, I just, like, everything always felt good.
Yeah.
And so this idea of like throwing a ball and it hurts just didn't sound like that's not the way it's supposed to be. But he was right. Like, eventually you throw enough times with pain and then you stop feeling the pain.
Yeah.
So
You become conditioned to the pain.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how'd you end up picking Baylor?
My wife wanted to go there.
Okay.
That's like one. I don't want to say it's 100% of the reason, but
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I was recruited to all the schools. I come from a long line of Aggies, and so
Okay.
went on a visit there. Went on a visit to Texas and TCU and Oklahoma State and then Baylor. And I was probably, I was the guy who everyone laughed at when I'd come in for a college visit because I wanted to bring my high school girlfriend along with me.
Yeah.
But like when I was 16, I was certain I was going to marry her. And so I was like scared to death to
Good for
not
you.
go to the same school as her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Just like, man, I'm afraid that somebody's going to swoop her up. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we went to Baylor and she said, this is where I want to go. And that's how I chose. But,
Who was the head coach there?
Steve Smith was the head coach.
Okay.
They had just come off their first ever College World Series appearance.
Okay.
The year previously when I was getting recruited, and so it kind of made sense. It made a lot of sense at the time, and really really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So got drafted in 2010, and then you got to play for all these great named,
So many great
minor league, Raptors, Loons, Quakes, and Lookouts.
Man,
what great names!
What great names!
We should bring those up to the
Yeah.
bigs.
Yeah.
Forget the Guardians.
Who
Let's
were you-
come up with the Loons.
Were you drafted out of high school even after you had Tommy John?
I was not drafted.
Okay.
I got a few calls that day, but
Okay.
it didn't make sense.
It's crazy how quickly that can change.
It can change quick. And then fast forward, so go through college. Mediocre college pitcher. actually thought the year before, I was draft eligible after my sophomore year since I set out that first year. I actually thought I was going to get drafted pretty high that year.
Yeah.
Had a really good first half of the season and then just kind of blew it the second half. And I was asking for a lot of money and nobody wanted to pay that.
Yeah.
And fast forward a year and I'm having a way worse season and I'm kind of like just sign me I'll play for free.
Right. Give me an opportunity.
And so I got an opportunity. I was a 30th round draft pick. So I don't think that round exists anymore. And I really think that the only reason I got drafted, so at the time, Kershaw and I were buddies growing up. We played together. At this point, he's like solidified himself with the Dodgers organization.
Right.
And he walked into the draft room on draft. You get to the 30th round. You imagine these teams sitting around. They're like, I mean, who are we going to take?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we're out of names.
Yeah.
We don't even know who these kids are. We've never seen them. And so he threw my name out there. He's like, hey, I really think you should draft him. He's a lot better than he's pitched. And they did it. And so obviously owe him a great deal. But they took me as a 30th round pick, and I showed up to rookie ball, and they said, you want to be a starter or reliever? And I was like, where will I pitch the most?
Yeah.
And they're kind of like looking at me. They're like, 30th rounder. Oof, numbers in college weren't great. Yeah, why don't you head down to the bullpen? And so I said yes, sir, and just kind of threw from there ever since.
Yeah.
Was there any relief from? I know this is going to be a kind of an odd question to ask. Knowing that you already knew who you wanted to marry, you knew that she was the one. Was there a little bit of relief, I guess, when you were injured, knowing that you were going to college? Or would you, if you had gotten drafted high enough, would you have started your journey then?
Would I have started it injured?
No, not if you had, say you didn't get hurt and you got drafted, would you have still gone to Baylor, or would you have gone to pro ball? Depending, I guess it would have depended on the money and the.
Yeah, I think I probably would have gone to pro ball.
Okay.
Yeah. I think my family definitely wanted me to get a college education.
Yeah.
That was important. It was important to our family.
Yeah.
But I really just wanted to play.
Yeah.
I just really wanted to play.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, you talked a little bit. We've talked a little bit about your major league debut, which wasn't ideal. So
it was not ideal.
Talk through that. Kind of it got better pretty quick, but kind of day one, what was that like, and what was the hurdle on the backside of that?
Yeah, for some reason that I'll never understand, I pitched really good in the minor leagues. And just kind of cruised through really quick. I think I spent less than 2 years in the minor leagues, pitched a little bit at every level and just dealt. And they called me up in June 2012 to make my big league debut. So it was a Dodgers-Phillies series in Philadelphia. Flew up there. It was a 4-game series. First 3 games go by, and they're like 1-run games. So I'm not sniffing, getting in there. All those back end of the bullpen guys are tired by the time they get to the 4th game. We score in the 8th, and it's a 5-0 lead. I had always closed through the minor leagues, so they thought like, hey, this is a great opportunity to get him in, 5-run lead. And the pitcher spot was up in the order. Okay, which again is something that doesn't exist anymore, but pitcher spot was up in the order. They're going to pinch hit for him. I don't even remember who pinch hit. It's funny. I don't remember the first guy I faced. But they pinch hit for him. I go up there and I am like feeling good.
Yeah.
Like I'm warming up in the pen. I'm excited. My stuff is sharp. I am like not even throwing the ball. It's just like coming out of me. And going exactly where I want it to.
Yeah. You're locked in.
I'm locked in. And same thing, my warm-up pitches on the field, I'm locked in. Anyway, first guy gets in the box, and like first pitch of my career, ball 1, right? And like I've kind of played this over and over in my head like 100 times. It's like I didn't think it was going to be ball 1, but still,
right?
Not a big deal. Done this 1,000 times. Get back on the rubber. At ball 2, ball 3, ball 4. Okay, so
were you close? I mean, were they?
They were not big misses.
Yeah.
They were not big misses.
Yeah.
But needless to say, it's like, I know you don't, it's not a great first impression to make,
Yeah.
right? Go in with a lead on the road and you go in and you walk a guy. It's like
Mhm.
it's not what bullpen guys are supposed to do.
Right.
Next guy that comes up, I do remember because it was Jimmy Rollins. So Jimmy Rollins comes up and same thing. Ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, ball 4.
Mm.
And so now I've walked 2 guys.
Yeah. On 8 pitches.
And like they were small misses, but they're misses, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what do you think happens next?
I don't want to guess.
Okay.
3-run homer.
No. No. Don Mattingly comes
Oh, that's
over and
right,
takes me out of the game.
Yeah.
And so they pull me out of the game,
Oof.
and I'm humiliated.
Yeah.
Is like a good word I could use to describe it. Kind of humiliated.
Yeah.
The opposite of how I always imagined that it would go. I don't know there's some dudes on this team.
Yeah.
Dudes that the Dodgers were like signing veteran guys.
Yeah.
Who had already played 10, 12 years.
Yep.
To finish their career, and like guys that I just grew up playing on, like watching on TV, and
Sure.
And I had never met any of them.
Yeah.
I wasn't in big league spring training.
Okay.
So they have no idea who I am.
Yeah, that's tough.
So get back to the dugout. We end up getting out of it. Guy they bring in, bowling ball sinker man, and he gets a double play and he ends up getting out of the inning. But and after the game, it's a flight, right? So we're actually flying from Seattle, or from Philadelphia to Seattle, and I'm like 100% sure like they're gonna drop me off at the Southwest terminal.
Yeah.
On the way, because I just I was embarrassed, I was humiliated. I get back, I shower, and I didn't get I got to the game, and I still just didn't feel like I knew anybody.
Yeah.
Right. And as a rookie, with all these guys in the clubhouse, you're taught to just keep your mouth shut.
Exactly.
Do what you're told. And so that's kind of exactly what I did. Is I kind of hid in my locker. I waited till most of the guys were out of the shower.
Yeah.
Went to the shower.
Yeah.
Got had to wear suits. So got my suit on and try to I sit at the very front seat of the bus that I can, trying to just keep to myself. And I remember, man, I was just this sick feeling inside of me.
Sure.
And that's kind of when, I mentioned my mentality in baseball. I think it was really, really good up until that point.
Yeah.
I think it was really good up until that point. And I think that's when I started having a lot of self-doubt trickle in. Again, the last podcast that I listened to, Cody was talking about the kind of fraud or imposter syndrome. Do I really belong here?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer was no.
Yeah.
It was dang, I was close.
Yeah.
I was really close, but I may never sniff this again. And that was tough. And I remember there was a couple guys on the team I did know. Kershaw, I knew Jamie Wright was on the team. And they're coming back up and they're patting me on the shoulder, kind of giving me a little squeeze, but they're not saying anything.
Yeah.
Right. They're not saying anything. And so I'm sitting on the bus and we're driving to the airport, and Don Mattingly comes over and I see him walking back and he's coming to sit by me. And he kind of squeezes my shoulder and he's like, "Hey, how's your arm feeling?" And I'm like, "How's my arm feeling?"
Yeah.
I threw 8 pitches. Feels pretty good. Yeah. And he's like, I said, "It feels great." And he said, "Good." He goes, "You're going to pitch tomorrow."
Good.
Awesome.
And I was like, man, just
Thank you.
That, a huge exhale. And, I've never, I don't know that I've had an opportunity to really ever say that to him.
Yeah.
That I'm on this side of it, realizing how a big deal that was for him to come over and say that. You later realize as you play longer, you realize hey, a night game in Philly and a flight to Seattle, none of the veteran guys want to pitch.
Right.
And so he really needed to throw a couple innings out of the pen that day. But that was a cool experience. Just him actually saying that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great leadership
Yeah.
to understand. Crossing Home Plate is sponsored by College Baseball Fellowship. College Baseball Fellowship exists to reach college baseball players with the transformative truth of the gospel, founded on a passion for both the game and the glory of Christ. CBF connects current and former MLB players with collegiate athletes, creating opportunities for mentorship, discipleship, and authentic spiritual growth. If you're a college coach or player and would like our team to visit, or you'd like to support CBF, you can learn more at collegebaseballfellowship.org.
I loved what Cody said about, like the imposter syndrome thing. It's like because I think it applies to everyone. Like, I'm sure that everyone, even a Clayton Kershaw at some point in his career, is like, man, do I still have it? Do I still belong? Like it's, and we're talking about one of the greatest left-handed pitchers in the game.
Yeah.
And I thought it was such a, just a like human thing for Cody to talk about, because everybody goes through it. Like, you can be the best player on the planet, but at some point you're going to struggle, especially in the game of baseball. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to ride the wave, but deep down, like, I'm just as insecure as the next guy.
Yeah.
And I know that it's around the corner, like, I know that failure's around the corner. Do you, at this point in your career, it's super early. Are you, what's like your daily routine? Is your, like, where are you spiritually? Are you growing, or were there any guys that, you looked at? I know Kershaw's a believer. What was kind of your daily routine?
Man, yeah, obviously my faith was strong.
Yeah.
And there were a few guys in there that I could talk to about it, but I'd say for the most part, I wasn't experiencing growth.
Okay.
I was really concerned with like my career.
Yeah.
At that point.
Absolutely.
And I was focused on that, and I did not understand how my faith and my baseball career could fit together.
Yeah.
And like I never like ran away from my faith or did anything like that. But I definitely, like, I mentioned like my job as a rookie, like keep your mouth shut,
Yeah.
do what you're told. Like I kind of did that with my faith, right? And if I have any regrets in the game, it's like, I didn't, like, I kept it to myself. Like
Yeah.
it was for me and for me only kind of thing. And I was sort of in this phase of my life where like I saw my faith as like, what is it going to do for me?
Yeah.
Right? Is it like, God, are you going to provide for me? God, are you going to comfort me? God, are you going to heal me when I have an injury
Right.
that sneaks up, but I still want to pitch? God, are you going to, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really understand what it was really about. And, it took some, like, my debut, right? I'll call it trial number 1.
Yeah.
Right. But it took many more trials in baseball to truly, for me to truly understand, like what it means to rely on God.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted God. I wanted him to be a part of it, but I don't know that I really knew that I needed him.
Yeah.
Right. I kind of thought that it was an optional thing that I was choosing to have faith in the game of baseball, but I didn't know that I really needed him. I had like, fast forward to the next year, I start that season in AAA. I finished 2012 with the Dodgers, stayed up pretty much the whole season. Started that next season in AAA, and I remember I pitched the last 2 innings of a game in Albuquerque. We're watching, I don't know if you remember it, but who was it? Carlos Quentin charges the mound on Zach Greinke.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, we finished the game and we go in the clubhouse, and we're watching that on TV, and I see Greinke like go down, and I'm like, it was his collarbone. Like broke his collarbone, trying to like form tackle a 250
Carlos
pound
Quinn
man.
was a big dude, man.
And so as soon as I saw Greinke go down, like I was like, hey,
opportunity
next in line.
Maybe I'm next in line. Yeah. But then I was also like, dang, I just threw 2 innings and like 38 pitches.
Yeah.
So they might not bring me up. Well, they ended up, I get on a flight from Albuquerque. We're going to play in Des Moines, Iowa. So we fly from Albuquerque to Omaha, get on a bus, drive however many hours to Des Moines. I get there at like 4 or 5 in the morning. and my phone rings, and they're like, "Hey, you're coming up.
Yeah.
We've got a day game in Arizona."
Oh my gosh.
And so I go straight. I never slept.
Yeah.
Right. I think they think about this stuff now. I don't think they thought about this.
No, I don't think they
back then.
did.
So I never slept. I get on a plane, fly to Dallas to connect. I have to wait like 2 hours in Dallas because my bag, my glove is like stuck on the plane. Anyway, end up getting to Phoenix, and I get to Phoenix in like the 5th inning of this game. Kershaw's got it's like a 1-1 game in the 8th.
Okay.
And I show up to the park. I've got my suit on, and our travel secretary is like, "Hey," and I was like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "Get going." And here I am walking in a suit. I haven't slept, been on a plane all day, and sure enough, I put my uniform on. I go straight to the bullpen and start warming up.
Just getting anxiety.
I throw a few pitches. I come in with the bases loaded in a 1-1 game.
Oh my!
And to face Goldschmidt. So it was a fun, good times.
Yeah.
Good times. I think I either walk them or I hit them. Whatever happens. But on the last pitch I threw, I feel something in my back, and it's like I'm like, like I have to come out of the game, and ended up having back surgery after that. Missed the whole season, and so I call that kind of like trial number 2.
Yeah,
it's like kind of think things are kind of starting to go my way, and then that happens, but. Again, through this, it's like I'm going through these trials, and I am still a believer, but I'm not. I'm still trying to like do it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to muscle it all myself.
Yeah.
From the rehab and the diagnosis of what's going on, and just trying to, like, never do I remember in any of these moments like getting down on my knees and saying like, "God, like, I need you."
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have that moment?
Yeah, I ended up having that moment. 2000, I ended up going to the Rangers in 2014, pitched really well. 2015, I'm pitching really, really well, having like the best season of my life.
Yeah.
We get to the end of that season, and pitching in Texas, like, I know, like, I have so many fans that come to the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, my parents came to every game. That's just what they did. That was I loved it. They came to every game, and all of a sudden we're kind of towards the end of the season. We're like in the race to win the West, and there's like 2 games in a row that my dad doesn't come to, and I'm like what? What did I call him? I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? Like,
yeah,
you've missed like 1 game all season."
Yeah.
And he's like, no, we just had a lot going on. Everything's good, and I could like tell in his voice like something's up. So I press into him a little bit, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, okay. Why don't we all? So he calls a family meeting the next morning. So at this point, I think we've got 5 games left in the season. We need 1 win to clinch the AL West. And I go over to his house in the morning. My brother and my sister are there, and he tells us that he's just been diagnosed with cancer, and it's stage 4. And he's got 2 different types of cancer, and both are stage 4. And, this was like, it was pretty earth-shattering news for any of us to hear. And again, this is kind of like this side of baseball that, like, from a fan perspective, you don't see, is like, there's stuff going on.
Real life.
Yeah.
And there's real life stuff going on. And so anyway, I get that news, and I'm devastated, and I'm crying and sad, and we're all hugging and praying together as a family. And then I hop in my truck and I drive to Arlington. And I think, like, I'm wiser now than I was, right? At this point in my life, I would have gone and talked to somebody, or said like, "Hey, like, I need a day."
Yeah.
But again, because I was like so ultra focused on like me, and like my career, it's like, you hear like relievers talk, like it's all about games.
Yeah.
Like, you just want to get into as many games as you can. I was going into my first year of arbitration, and like, I'm trying to like I just want games. I
Yeah.
want innings. I want saves. I'm trying to get out there as much as I can. And so I sort of just like, I show up to the park and I just like
Yeah.
act like it's all good. And so it's funny. I end up pitching that night and I blow a save. And then I end up pitching the next day. I think I come in like a tie game and I give up a run. End up pitching the next day and the next day.
Yeah.
And the next day. I pitched 5 games in a row.
You pitched all 5 of them. Jeez.
After that. And it was sort of like after that, where you asked me, like, did you ever get to a point?
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Because after a season of like pitching really well, I wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
And there were so many things that just felt out of my control. Not only was I not pitching well, but my dad was sick, and I've now pitched 5 games in a row, and like I'm like questioning, am I ever going to throw a ball again?
Right.
Because I was in so much pain. And I'm keeping it all in here.
Yeah.
And it's just like I can't keep it in here anymore. So for me, that was that moment of where I just said, I can't do this. And it doesn't always like, what I've learned is that when you call on the name of the Lord, it means your life is better.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean your life gets easier.
I agree.
It's because from that moment, like I felt so much better.
Yeah.
It's like the things that happened in my career at that point, they mattered to me, but in a much different way.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain, but you fast forward to the next season and like going to 2016, and I'm in spring training. I'm the team's closer. I'm probably the highest paid guy in their bullpen, and I feel good. My velocity's up a little bit. My stuff is good. Everybody's excited for what I'm going to bring to the team that season. I couldn't get anybody out. Like,
where is your dad at this point? Is he going through?
He's going through treatments and stuff. And like, man, I just like, I couldn't get anybody out.
Yeah.
Like, and nobody could tell me why.
Yeah.
Like nobody could tell me like, hey, it's because of this or because of this. It's just like, and it wasn't like, I wasn't walking guys.
Yeah.
I was getting hit.
Yeah.
And that was a weird place to be. But like, had God not prepared my heart the year before, like, I don't know where I would have been. Because in 2016, like I truly remember having this weird joy every single time I came to the ballpark. And I think it irritated, I actually think it irritated our manager a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're not performing.
Because I wasn't performing at all. But here I was like enjoying showing up to play the game. And of course I wanted to perform better, and I wanted to do well, but they actually put me on a bereavement, just because I was pitching so bad. Yeah. Right. They're like, hey, we think you're pitching bad because your dad's sick.
So they knew, the team knew.
Yeah. At that point they knew, and they were just like, why don't you go take a few days? But came back, and again, like I couldn't get anybody up.
Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah. It's a weird deal.
Wow. So finish your career. So was 16 your last year then? Or
no, 16 I ended up getting optioned at the end of that season to AAA. End up injuring my back again that season. Signed the next year with Tampa Bay. So I signed a 1-year major league contract with Tampa Bay in 2017 under the stipulation. I went and had a physical done. And they said, we'll sign you, but you can only pitch. And I'm like, what do you mean only pitch? And they're like, you can't lift. You can't run.
Can't take care of yourself.
We don't want to see you doing any kind of things that would injure your back. And I'm like, okay. But so of course, that was the only team interested in me. So I signed on the dotted line. Ended up having Tommy John for the second time that season. And, I tried to make a comeback for a few years after that, but never did. So yeah, that was kind of the end of it.
Were you allowed to do like a maintenance like you're doing your arm care, or?
I was doing basically arm care and Pilates.
Okay.
and I went on walks.
Wow. Cool.
And that was kind of what I did.
They treat you like an old man.
I was
Yeah, that's
I was
really
treated, I was
delicate.
treated like an old man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. At
was,
what age?
It was interesting. I was not an old man.
No.
Yeah, not an old man.
It's crazy some of the like just lack of feel that some of these clubs had or still have.
Yeah.
That it's like you think that this way is the best way for like everybody.
Yeah.
Like in his situation, you know what I mean? He's had surgery, he's had injuries, but by no means are you like, to your point, an old man or like damaged goods. It's like I can still perform at a high level, but they think that like shutting it down is going to give you the best opportunity to succeed. It blows my mind. But
yeah, it is crazy.
And I think you see that in every walk of life, right? Whether it's business or, and in the end, baseball at that level is by all means a business,
it's for sure.
right? And you're a tool in the, whether you want to be or not.
Yeah.
But it's got all that extra stuff of, hey, we have fans over here who think you owe them something.
Yes.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I want to talk. I don't want to step on your toes, and I want to be mindful of our time as well. But I want to talk a little bit about that kind of the behind the scenes stuff, because I think there's a lot of weight that guys carry that the fans don't see, and you talk about I guess the entitlement that fans have, you know, to us and to see us succeed. And as someone who dealt with a ton of failure and a ton of unmet expectations in my career. It really was me opening up for the first time, because I was the same way. I buried it down. I think I attribute it to being a Texan and being raised in the South, and we don't talk about our problems, and being a guy and trying to be tough, and also being a believer and not wanting to show anybody that, you know, I was struggling. But it was really when I opened up about how much it bothered me that I struggled, that people started being able to relate to me. Did you feel like you ever went through that, or did you feel like you had to just continue to save face and just continue to keep going and just, you know, you talked about joy, which I love. But there's such a fine line. It's like people would get mad at me because I didn't snap.
Yeah.
So they didn't think I cared.
Right. I can relate to that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but I guess my question for you is, were you really able to connect with people through your struggle, or did you feel like you just had to shoulder on and soldier on, and were you more reliant on your family, or?
Man, that's a good question. As I'm sitting here like listening to you talk, I don't know that I've ever like actually been honest about like how much it bothered me that I didn't live up to the expectations that they had for me. 'Cause like I said, I never blew up.
Yeah.
Right. I maintained kind of this like strong, confident, joyful persona. I wasn't faking it. Yeah. Right. It's not what it was. I wasn't faking it. It really did bother me. Yeah. A lot. And it's funny you say like people can relate to that. I always kind of saw it as my duty to not let people see how much it bothers me. Yeah. I played the game pretty emotionless. Yeah. And that's how I was raised to play baseball, Same. Right? It's like when things are good, you look this way. When things are bad, you look the exact same way. Right. Right. And so I sort of carried that like through injuries, through rehab, through not being able to get anybody out. Like I sort of just maintained this stoic presence. Yeah. But it really, it sucked. I mean, it bothered me that I was struggling, that I couldn't get people out, that people thought I was going to be, you know, have an all-star season, and I had the opposite of that. Yeah. That did bother me, and I don't think I've ever really talked about it. The only person that probably actually shouldered that burden besides me was probably my wife. Yeah, sure. Not that I was like, you know, mean to her, but and I think she'd tell you the same thing. She could feel it. Yeah. Right. Because I can only I can only sort of remain stoic. I'm not going to be stoic in front of her.
Right.
Right. Like I would break down in front of her.
Yes.
Right. Because she's my person that I can be 100% fully myself with. And,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm still processing what you're asking me.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I ever to this day have like ever sat and just said like, man, I wish it had gone differently.
I feel the same way. And I think one of the things that I really learned through the process and am still learning, is that from the outside in, there's not a lot of things that people can relate to us about.
Yeah.
We played at the highest level. We're successful in life. We have, like we have a lot of things going for us. And people that struggle or people that are really, in need of something want to be able to relate to people. So when we talk about our struggle, it gives us a place to meet people. And one of the things that Josh Hamilton said to me, and I had him when he was beyond belief with the Rangers, when he was walking strong. One of the things that he said to me in an off-season hit batting cage was, we're created for relationships, which I thought was ironic because Josh sometimes is the hardest guy to get a hold of. But what he was saying is we're not meant to be alone. And we're not meant to, just go through this life, with our head down, navel gazing. We're meant to be in relationship with others. And part of that, I think for us as former baseball players is talking about some of the hard stuff. And that's kind of my goal with this, is to let these college kids understand it's a beautiful game. And I will always love the game of baseball, but it's going to break your heart at some point. And that's okay. What are you going to do with that? And also, on the other side of that, there's someone that will never let you down. And there's someone that gifted you to play this game, and that put certain people in your life to help you in this game. And that person is Jesus. And so let's talk about what he can do for you that the game of baseball can't, because at some point it's gonna fail all of us. And I just think that's for me as a believer in the game who really struggled with identity through my entire career. I wish I had held on to that a little bit tighter, and let go of the game, but it's hard.
It is really hard. It is really hard. I remember I mentioned that 2016 season where I just struggled. And I do remember one moment where I came in with the lead and left the game and the other team's ahead. And, this has been a repeated pattern. And I remember feeling like overwhelmingly mad.
Yeah.
And I was not the guy who threw the Gatorade cooler ever. But I went back behind the dugout and I just started grabbing anything I could find, throwing it against the wall, kicking stuff. I took a bat and just hit it against the wall. Like I remember one of the only times in my life that I lost control of my body physically because I was so angry. And I wanted to hide it. I didn't want anyone to see me like that.
Yeah.
But Jeff Bannister was the manager that season, and when I finished my rage, I look up and he's standing there, and I'm like, great.
Yeah.
He saw me do this, and he just came up and he was like he was almost excited.
Yeah.
That he saw me like that. Like he embraced me. He's like, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's okay to react like that, but I'm as I was listening to you talk, I'm thinking about our relationship with Jesus is it is okay to here I am calling Jeff Bannister Jesus, but in some ways I want to see Jesus he is the one who's there.
Yeah.
When everything's going wrong and we lose control.
Yeah.
He's okay with that.
Yeah.
Right. He wants to embrace us. He wants to take us in. He wants to tell us everything's going to be okay. And I remember that moment, and if I had really, really tried hard not to, I probably could have broken down and cried.
Yeah.
Right then.
Yeah. I think that's really hard for men, especially successful, like highly motivated, highly driven men, but just men in general, to be really, really vulnerable and broken. And those are the times when I felt like I was the closest to Jesus.
Yeah.
When I hate crying. Like I don't like doing it. My grandfather passed away right before I got called up to the big leagues. We share the same birthday, obviously not the same year. And I remember being at my grandparents' house, and him holding me, crying, saying that he had to see me play in the big leagues. And I walked into what we call the blue room at Mimi and Papa's house, and I couldn't even cry. I was like so emotionally, like, I don't know, stuck, I guess.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom came in there and put her hand on my shoulder, and I was like I didn't want to even be consoled. You know what I'm saying? And it took me several years to like realize that was like something, you know what I mean? But I think it's really hard to let go, man. Like, it's hard, especially when you put as much time and energy, and when it's been such a big deal, and you love doing it and you have joy doing it. It's really hard to let go. But that's where the freedom is. And I just wish that I talked to Matt Carpenter the other day, who, might be another potential podcast guy, but we were talking about just the joy that we had when we played the game, but how hard it was to hang on to that. And he said, I think being a believer helps. I really do. Like, I wonder how some of these guys that don't have a faith foundation, do they have real joy? And that's something that even as believers, it was hard to hold on to in the game. But, man, it's,
Sure.
my thing is I want guys after their career to be able to say, I'm free,
Yeah.
To not have to go back and be like, man, I didn't meet any of the expectations. Like, I had some success, and, I made a good living, but man, what happened? You know what I mean? And understand that I think every guy has that question, whether you're a Chris Carpenter, whether you're, Cody Allen, Shawn Tolleson, I think everybody has that question.
Yeah. And like you guys talk about, you're going to be a former player longer than you're a player. And so what's it look like on the other side? What's purpose?
Yeah.
And, think about the anger and the rage aspect and having that moment, right? We see David had those moments throughout Psalms, right?
Yeah.
It was so honest and so open. And God says, hey, that's my dude.
Right.
And I think largely because he was so humble and going, hey, God, I can't do it. And I'm going to put that burden on you and not carry it myself, which is, so hopefully that's kind of a good point to wrap this particular one up.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do is I want to have you back
For sure.
because we definitely want to talk about, I know something close to your heart is really parenting youth players and youth athletes. And we want to come back to that. In fact, I got a coach that we may bring in for that one to spend some time, who's coaching some college players. And we've had that conversation too of, parents' expectations maybe outdoing some players' expectations, right? And things like that,
Right.
and how that all fits. And I know you're doing stuff along that. So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
great.
Thank you for having me.
It's great having you. And so thanks, and we'll have another one soon.
Awesome.